Hey everyone, this is Outnumbered. Thanks for joining us. I'm Julie Banderas. Joining me today, Cheryl Casoni, Jackie DeAngelis, Dr. Nicole Sapphire, and Jason Chavitz. So we're going to begin with the border crisis, right? Because Texas is now sending migrants to a third Democratic-run city. Fox News was there, in fact, last night, and we saw it happen when two buses arrived at the Chicago's Union Station carrying an estimated 80 to 100 migrants who crossed the southern border illegally. Mayor Lori Lightfoot's office lashed out in a blistering statement. Quote, unfortunately, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is without any shame or humanity. But ever since he put these racist practices of expulsion into place, we've been working with our community partners to ready the city to receive these individuals, and accusations of racism also echoing in the liberal media this week. Watch.
I mean, the conservative estimate is about $80,000 per bus trip. But we know that, racists don't mind paying this money. So racists, are willing to pay the money, and they don't care if taxpayers pay the brunt.
I'm going to start with you, Jason. How is this racist? Because last I checked, Chicago is a sanctuary city. So you have sanctuary city laws, which means you welcome immigrants. So now we're sending you the immigrants, and now we're racists?
Yeah, look, Governor Abbott and Governor Ducey in Arizona, I applaud them for doing this. It's all about diversity, right? Like, why should all the people who come here illegally just stay in Texas,
right,
Arizona, California, New Mexico? So they go to these other cities. That sounds like diversity to me. It doesn't cost $80,000 to do it. These people do it voluntarily. They sign up for it. They get on a bus. And the federal government's been sending them out on airplanes. So why is it that racist if far more people have gone on airplanes to New York and other places? I think it's an absolutely absurd assertion. And if you want to solve the problem, then go down to the southern border, see it for yourself, and fix it.
Exactly. Or I don't know, pay attention to the news. Because, Cheryl, you remember we were talking about this the other day, about how the press secretary literally battled it out with Peter Ducey, denying the fact that immigrants are walking over the border when we watch them with our cameras every day. Of course, she's not watching Fox, and the other channels, of course, don't cover it. Abbott is trying to send a message, clearly, to the White House. And he says that President Biden's inaction at our southern borders continues to put lives of Texans and Americans at risk and is overwhelming our communities. So these small border towns in Texas are completely overwhelmed. They have zero help from the administration. So what else to do? Send them to Washington. Maybe they can do something about them.
Well, okay, Chicago, D.C., New York, your sanctuary cities. Well, you know what? Time to live up to that moniker. The talk is over. Time to show action. Lightfoot is doing what I think is a very lazy response to what's happening. Meanwhile, Texas Governor Abbott has made a very clear and strong response. What has he done? Okay, Operation Lone Star. Let's go through this. Deployed the National Guard, Texas National Guard. Thousands of DPS troopers, constructed barriers, engaged Mexican northern border states in how to handle the crisis. Reached across the border, folks, everybody. We're talking about fentanyl. We're talking about cocaine. This huge bust we just had last week that we found out about. Biggest bust of cocaine in 20 years coming across the border. Governor Abbott has said enough is enough. But this is not just his problem. And it's already cost him $12 million to send these migrants on these buses. So it's not like he's just doing it because he's a racist or he's doing it out of spite. He's putting his money where his mouth is, the taxpayers of Texas, because Texas has had it. They're overrun. Enough is enough.
The White House needs to listen to the statistics, to the facts, to the numbers, because they are alarming. It's a humanitarian crisis. You are absolutely correct. The number of migrants bused to big cities is just a sliver of the crisis at the border. Around 9,000 have actually been bused from Texas since May. That pales in comparison to the 649,000 encounters at the southern border in that very same time frame. And this is a president that loved to insult the former administration for putting kids in cages, which was a bunch of crap. That did not happen. Children were temporarily separated from their parents, but they were reunited. What's happening now? There are children on these buses and children that are being sent over into this country across the border illegally without their parents. What is this administration doing about it?
It's tragic, and they're doing nothing about it. And they do know what's going on. Even if they don't watch our channel, they do see these pictures and they know, but they're turning a blind eye to it. And what's really interesting is this is classic left hypocrisy, not in my backyard, right? When it comes to the energy industry, for example, and their windmills and their solar panels, not not in my backyard. Don't block my view. That's what's happening here. When it comes to the red states, you can overrun them with illegal migrants, and that's fine. They have to use their taxpayer dollars to clean up that mess and to support those people. But, you know, Adams and Lightfoot and Bowser, they're saying, we don't want it here, even though they have declared that sanctuary city status. You can't do that. This is not a red state problem. This is an everybody problem at this point. And this is an administration that has made it become an everyone problem. And those numbers were really staggering. It just shows you how overrun Abbott is. He's at his last straw here and is kind of saying, you got to help out. You have to pull your weight. You cannot say this is okay and then not accept migrants in your towns.
Yeah, no, it's a national crisis. And I mean, this administration had a difficulty in using the word crisis when describing this fiasco. But quite frankly, this is also not only a national crisis, it's a political crisis for the Democratic Party, because come the midterms, I can tell you right now, they are going to be hit where it hurts when it comes to immigration.
Well, obviously they're concerned because it's the easiest cop-out when you disagree with something to call someone a racist. They say it with such conviction, like that's a fact. But even though it's not true at all. I mean, unfortunately, you have Democrats who just completely weaponize the term racism. They're diluting the severity of what it actually is. You have former President Obama and Biden. They would call the Senate filibuster racist when it wasn't working for their Democratic policies. But then on the other hand, they would actually say, no, the filibuster is a good thing. It's essential for our democratic process. When it was helping them, you have Democratic politicians and Black Lives Matter who would say the police are racist if they were interrogating Black Americans. When it came to violent crimes, yet statistically, Blacks have a higher propensity to do the violent crimes. And of note, also, Blacks tend to be victims of violent crimes, the people the police are trying to protect. So when you have these racial disparities, it's not always because of racism. Sometimes cultural issues and also logistics get in the way. When you're talking about taking migrants to these other cities, that is basic logistics, because these border towns, they do not have the infrastructure to support this rapid influx of people. And why shouldn't these democratic cities who say they're sanctuary cities and say they welcome migrants and diversities, why shouldn't they help bear the burden? This is not racism. This is basic economics.
You know what's interesting, too, is, Jason, the fact that Hispanics in this country are leaning further and further away from the Democratic Party. I mean, when you want to talk about racism, we're not just talking about Black people, we're talking about brown people. And brown people are seriously offended by this administration and their lack of due diligence when it comes to issuing the safety at the border for those illegal immigrants that are coming in, especially for the children. Well,
many of the people that are coming because they want law and order. And so we need to have law and order. It's this fiction to suggest that every person that comes is Hispanic. They come from more than 150 countries. Now, the majority will come from Central and South America because of the proximity, and from Mexico. But don't suggest to us that it's just those people. 150 different countries are flowing through these countries. And what are these Democrats so worried about? If you turn to the White House, say it, the border's secure. It's closed. Nobody's walking across the border. That's what they're hearing, and that's the lie and the fiction. So which one is it?
No, I bet you if the president knew that all these migrants coming into the country were Republicans, he'd put up a wall. He doesn't want them coming in and affecting our elections come the midterms.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.